Ready? All right. Welcome everyone to this actual portion of Citizen Budget Committee interviews. We have 3 individuals to interview this evening, and they represent Wards 2 and Ward 7. The Salem City Council Boards and Commissions Committee has recommended these individuals for interview, and we will open the interview process now, and we will alternate between the 3 candidates and the questions so that not any one of you is on the hot seat for the entire time. We'll spread it around a little bit. I'd like to also make a special welcome to Don Homuth, as thank you, Don, here this evening in the absence of Dan Clem. So welcome to our midst. We appreciate you being here with us. So I will ask each of the individuals to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves and what they bring to the process for budget, and how they understand the budget committee process, and then we'll open it to questions. So we'll start with Robert Bailey, and welcome, and
thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
2, right?
Ward 2, that's correct. Councillor Tessler's ward, her turf. My name is Robert Bailey, Bob Bailey. I'm recently a retired former employee of the State Department of Land Conservation Development for about 30 years. What I bring to the council here is, in my previous residence up in Oregon City, I spent 4 years on the city council there, called the City Commission. And in that capacity, of course, was on the budget committee and helped to shepherd the city of Oregon City's budget through some very difficult times. I think the recession hit there a number of years ago, long before it hit anywhere else, and we had to make some very tough decisions, and I was in the middle of that. I understand how budgets play out, how it relates to the city council, kind of the constituencies, different fund types, etc. So I would just bring that experience, as well as my experience for the past 10 years of managing a sizable federal grant and 15 employees in the department. So budgeting has been my life for the last dozen or more years in one way or the other, outside of my personal life, of course. And so it's one way for me to give to my community, and I would just offer that up to you.
Thank you very much. Tyler Clark, welcome.
Hello, I'm Tyler Clark. I am a recent graduate from Portland State University, just received a master's certificate in real estate and urban development. I have a lot of interest in urban development, in local government, would like to play a role. I have experience on the Kaiser Urban Renewal Advisory Board, which has kind of gone on hiatus for the time being in light of Kaiser's issues. So would like to volunteer as much as I can somewhere else. I'm a Salem resident, so my interest would be here primarily. Other than that, I mean, I bring a lot of education to the table. I haven't had the years to get a whole lot of experience, but I'm working on it. I believe that's what I could bring to the board.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Caleb, welcome.
Yes, thank you. My name is Caleb Williams. I'm in Ward 7, live in Laurel Springs area. I have an interest in serving on the board. Because I have an interest in serving this community. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Sawfeld Griggs here in Salem, and I'm a shareholder in that law firm, and as a shareholder, I'm an owner, and so I have experience in budgeting for our firm, like any small business owner does. I recently, I guess in 2010, completed a term as the chair of the local chapter of the Red Cross, and I'm still on that board. will be getting off that board here in the next 6 months, but that's been on the board for, I think, 7 years now. This will be year number 8. So I have experience on that local board. I don't have any experience on a city committee or a volunteer board, but I have an interest in serving on this one, and interest in city government and how it operates, and would be happy to be able to contribute. Thank you.
Fine, thank you very much. Pleased that you're all 3 here this evening. Questions from councilors? Councilor Nanke? And will you direct your questions to all 3, or you?
Yeah,
Okay.
on this one, and then I'll have
Okay.
one here in a couple of minutes after. But I just wanted to ask if you've actually seen what our 3 to 5 year forecast looks like, and if you have, why are you sitting in that seat? Do you understand the challenges? And are you willing to step up to participate in those? And
If
I
I'm-
suppose we're rotating on to Tyler to start this
That
group.
would be
And
fine. Mhm.
Yeah, I've read the last 2 forecasts, this annual one and last year's, and there's definitely some challenges as far as revenue collections are concerned.
And I have too. I've looked at the 3 to 5 year forecast, and yeah, it will be a challenge, but a budget still needs to be adopted, and it has to be done, and I'm willing to help do that. A lot of organizations are facing challenges, and so we've got to power through and make the difficult decisions to keep things moving.
Yeah, Councilor, that's a great question, and I wondered that the other night after I sat through the meeting at the library with the Americans for Prosperity presentation on the budget, and I thought, holy cow. Well, Caleb's quite right. The budget's got to be adopted. The city has to move forward. Decisions have to be made, and so that's no excuse for shying away from them, and I recognize it will be difficult. In some respects, it'll be deja vu all over again with some of the things we had to do in Oregon City, and it's no fun. But at the end of the day, I'm willing to do it and spend my time, and we'll make the best of the situation, because we've got to. I mean, you have to have a budget come July 1. So, appreciate the question, though.
Okay.
actually,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
can just go. I'll ask my second one here. In regards to what your thoughts are on core services of a full-service municipality, and how one would weigh the balance between, say, the library and public safety, parks and public safety, urban development, balance, and when are you too deep in core services, and how do you deal with the rest of the quality of life indicators?
And who are you starting with Caleb?
Yeah.
Is it my turn now? Okay. That's a very difficult question to answer, which is probably why you asked it. But and I'm not so familiar with the different services provided that I can fully answer that. But I think fire and police protection is a significant core service that needs to be protected. The library is an important service to me as well. My family uses it often. We may support it in our fees, our late fees we have, but obviously not enough. So but it's also an important service, and I don't know how best you balance those, other than trying to determine what really the city can't and citizens can't do without. And everyone has different opinions on that, I think, but certainly fire and safety is significant. Parks are important to Salem, I think, and I know we've cut there quite a bit in the last few years, but it's a very difficult decision to make, and if I have a better understanding of all the services, I could probably provide you a better answer than that.
Well, I think part of it is getting down to the details of each service that we want to provide. For instance, the fire service. What's the level of servicing currently provided? What are citizens willing to accept? Similarly, in the police department, what's the level of service, officers per thousand, traffic accident, whatever it is that contributes to their workload. For instance, in Oregon City, we had a very high population to officer level, but we made the determination that, frankly, we could live with that until the public told us that otherwise. So we were able to kind of keep core service. It wasn't optimum, but it was core service. Fire department, we ended up peeling that off and putting it to the public and annexed it to a fire district, which took that load off of the city's plate. I mean, it was not popular, but we did it. Similarly with library, what are your options with libraries? This year we may have to make a decision, but we may need to look down the road at other options for funding the library, a library service district, those kinds of things. Parks, to me, that's because those involve real estate and kind of the core. They comprise sort of the core footprint of the city as opposed to just a service. So how do you maintain that core footprint and provide really it's a quality of life thing. So again, as Caleb said, I think it's a real balancing, but I think each of those services comes with its own discrete set of potentially budgeting and political parameters that you want to look at.
Well, it's definitely about balancing between all those services. In my mind, I would think that the unchangeable obligations, such as PERS and others, would come first. There's nothing we can really do about that. Second, public safety, that's pretty important. And the rest is where a lot of that balancing is going to come in. And in my mind, it's more about weathering this current storm that we're in for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, and keeping our heads above water would be the ultimate goal. And I mean, that's what the game is right now. I think that the answer might be different if times were better.
Okay. Have all three answered your question? Okay. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a pretty aggressive calendar for the budget cycle this year. We're going to start next week, really, with work on this. Yeah, just both for the committee, then we'll be going out to familiarize you with the city, with our programs and all the rest of it. Then we'll be going out and meeting with the public in 4 separate community forums. And then beginning in March? April. It's every Wednesday for just 4 weeks. She's not right. It'll take longer than 4 weeks. But no, it is actually quite a bit of time commitment. Have you all had a chance to look at that calendar to understand what the time looks like on this? Generally, right off your Wednesday night, if you're watching Dancing for the Stars, give it up and watch something else or whatever it is Wednesday night.
If I may answer, no, I have not seen the calendar specifically, but I understand the workload, and
Okay.
I'm ready to do it.
Okay.
Yes, I understand also. Part of my budget at home is limited TV service, so that's not an issue.
Excellent.
And I wasn't aware of every single meeting, but I was aware of especially the concentrated schedule. Yeah, that's just fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Were there other questions, Councillor Tessler?
I gotta ask the touchy-feely question. So, what do you hope to gain out of this experience? I mean, what do you think, other than probably never ever wanting to come around here again, will you gain from this experience? I mean, what do you hope to get? What do you think that you'll do with this experience?
Well, just that, the experience, I hope, and to meet more people and to become a better citizen of Salem. I'm very interested in that.
Counselor, I hope to just get a better knowledge of how the city works, get to know services provided, and get to know those who are on the committee with me better, and get to know some of the city staff better, just so I can get to know this city even more.
Yes, Counselor, I think it's very similar with me. I live in the city. I haven't really participated the last 5 or 6 years because I've been focused on my job, but I feel it's important to be engaged in the community, and this is a level of service that I feel like where I can contribute. And for me personally, I hope to gain a better knowledge, as these gentlemen have said, of how the city works, who's doing what, kind of its sense of direction, and really feel like I've lent my hand to the oar a little bit to move the ship along.
Other questions? Don?
Madam Mayor, I should tell you I'm not the most reticent person in the world when I get here like this. Gentlemen, the Financial Accounting Standards Board recognizes fund accounting as the central core tool for civic budgeting. To what degree do you have education about or experience with fund accounting that you think will help you in this process?
I think it's my turn. I have zero experience in fund accounting. I've heard of the FASB.
We call it FASB.
Okay. But that's the extent of it.
I'm going to rely on the city's financial officers to provide me with that background and ask me to make the decisions about those various funds. We may have used that approach in Oregon City. I may have used that approach or an analog in my job. I don't know, but I'm going to rely on the city staff to point me in the right direction for the decisions I have to make.
Likewise, I don't know much about fund accounting, but I have a pretty strong understanding of GAAP, or the generally accepted accounting practices. That's actually an area I excelled in, and looking back on everything I did in my undergraduate work, that was probably the most useful. So I have a good understanding of that accounting.
Thank you.
Other questions? Well, I have a question. You each may have had a chance to review the city's budget, and you may see that when the budget committee reviews the manager's proposed budget, actually the budget committee does not review every dollar and cent that is spent by the city, but rather just the general fund budget. And I'm wondering if you have any comments about how you would probably manage maybe your own curiosity to make adjustments, or to see the city make adjustments in other things such as labor negotiated wage and packages, et cetera, which would actually not be your purview as a member of the budget committee. And how would you how would you handle the fact that there are a lot of budgetary and a lot of financial decisions that will never come before you on the budget committee? And I think we start back with Robert.
Well, Madam Mayor, I think that there are some things going into this process as a volunteer member of the Budget Committee that are really givens for me. I mean, they're sidebars for my decision making, and if I want to change maybe some of those givens, then I'll run for council. Or work through the neighborhood to make some changes in some of those assumptions coming in. But I'm ready to play just with I'll ask the questions, and I'll want to know the relationships to other funds, such as urban renewal or, a parks trust fund or something like that, or, alcohol and cigarette tax and so on. But I can't change those as a member of the Budget Committee, and I'm more than willing to live with that.
Okay, thank you. Tyler?
That's a good question, something that I had not considered. I suppose my understanding of the process is that that my opinion would count towards what was brought before the board, and so that's what I was thinking of, the impression I was under. I suppose yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and our city manager has just reminded me, thank you, that the Budget Committee reviews all of the budgets, but there are decisions that are made regarding budgets and departments and fund allocations that are outside the purview of the general fund budget. Okay. Caleb?
And I'm very comfortable living within the structure that's the committee is established to, decision-making structure that's been established with the committee. It doesn't mean I won't have questions, like Mr. Bailey said, but if that's the world that we have to make decisions within, then I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay. Thank you. I do ask that because we have had Budget Committee members in past years that have been very frustrated by the fact that they can't affect labor negotiations, for instance. And you're right, that ends up being really the city manager's decisions with the council advice. So, okay. Are there any further questions? All right. Seeing none, hearing none, then we will move to the voting, and I need a little direction on this part.
We'll do the voting when we get to the city council meeting. So we're adjourned now until the housing authority meeting at 6:30.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much again, gentlemen, for being here. We appreciate your time and your being willingness to put your names forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a little bit of a break before we begin our regular meetings. Okay.
Commissioner Nanke?
Here.
Commissioner Clausen?
Here.
Commissioner Dickey? Here. Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Cannon is not here.
Have we dialed him yet?
Not my dad.
Excuse me, Counselor Cannon asked to be a part of the meeting right after the voting for the Budget Committee since he's not able to do that
Okay.
by phone. So-
Okay?
Commissioner Clem is absent, and in his seat is guest Commissioner Don Homuth
Here.
and Chair Bennett.
Here. Welcome, Mr. Homuth.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy yourself.
Is that a directive?
That's a,
Yes.
it's a promise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time on our agenda for public comment, is there anyone who'd like to address the Salem Housing Authority? All righty. Commissioner Nanke, could you move the consent calendar?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the consent calendar as provided.
So moved.
Seconded by Tesler. Are there any questions on Any item on the consent calendar? Mr. Wilch, did you have anything you'd like to highlight in your information report?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, I want to point out a couple different things. Let me, first of all, the item on the agenda with regard to the Parkway Limited Partnership. I'm not going to go in detail on that. There were no questions. I do want to note, though, that we did submit a CDB Community Development Block Grant application as the Commission authorized on December 30th to the city. That's an activity that's underway. We are gearing up for the development and submittal of a state housing finance application. This application actually came out today. They're due on March 31st, and we'll be working and coming back to you all with a resolution and report for the authority to go and submit that application. So Parkway continues to move along with tonight's action. There's still upcoming action moving up to the 31st. I would like to really briefly mention in the program management report on a quarterly basis, we're providing the applicant demographic profile, if you will. And there's just a couple points I want to bring to your attention. First of all, we have a waiting list as of December 31st of a combined waiting list across all of the properties and the Section 8 program. Combined waiting list of 6,918 applicants on our waiting list interested in accessing the Section 8 program or actual rental housing units. 48% of those applicants are elderly or disabled or both. And I say that because it's hard to, there are multiple attributes that an applicant might have, but a substantial number of disabled and elderly households looking for housing. And finally, the average income of those households, applicant households, is $9,205, which is 1/3 of the poverty level.
Mr. Wilch, that seems like a big jump in your waiting list. Where were you last? It seemed like you were in the 5,000s last time.
We were at the like 5,500.
So that's been, what, 2 months ago you told us that?
It is. It was actually in September, end of September data, so October, but 3 months.
Yeah.
We, I've mentioned over time that our per client subsidy is increasing as the income of our clients is decreasing. So we're serving a few less, unfortunately, a few less clients than we have been a year ago, simply because the depth of incomes that we're serving continue to decline. And so we're not getting through our waiting list as quickly as we would have in the past, I think, is the primary reason for that.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor of the consent calendar say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes. We have no special orders of business, unfinished business, new business. Without objection, we're adjourned.
Very nicely done. Very fine run meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, myself and the mayor. Sure, we're supposed to be having that meeting. I just had a presentation by all the hours. With finance.
Oh, I don't even, I miss Bob Cannon.
And went through all of their numbers.
welcome to Chapter 2, Scene 2 of the Salem City Council meeting. We actually first will be the Salem Urban Renewal Board. And let me find my agenda for that, and we'll get started. Welcome everyone who is here. All right, we'll call to order. Ask for a call for the roll.
Board Member Bennett?
Here.
Board Member Tesler?
Present.
Board Member Nanki?
Here.
Board Member Clausen?
Here.
Board Member Dickey?
Here.
Board Member Thomas?
Here.
Board Member Cannon is absent. Board Member Clem is absent, and in his place is Guest Board Member Don Homuth.
Here.
Chair Peterson?
Here. All right, we have no reports of boards, commissions, or committees this evening, so I will turn to Member Chuck Bennett and ask for your motions on the consent calendar.
Madam Mayor, we will be dealing with each item on the consent calendar after our discussion earlier today, so I'm going to move the minutes for December 12th, 2011.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for December 12th, 2011. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Yes,
Madam Mayor,
Member Bennett?
If I may, I'll move Resolution 4.2A.
All right. It's been moved by Member Bennett and seconded by Member Nanki to approve Resolution 12-1, which is item 4.2A on your agenda. Is there discussion? Councilor Bennett? Member Bennett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I would like to point to just one part of this, and then if anyone had any others as they read through this document that I think needs a little clarification. That's on page 3 of the staff report, and it deals, I believe it's the staff report, dealing with the town square recommendation of Vision 2020, and I want to I think it might be a little misleading in there, and I just wouldn't want it to stay on the record. I guess we could pass it the way it is, but I want to make the record pretty clear. I chaired the Town Square Task Force on this, and it sort of sounds like we'd like to have a town square where one of our objectives downtown is to locate a town square down there. It really is not quite that specific. It's much more if we happen to be walking along and a town square falls in our laps, that'd be a nice town square, but there was really a lack of interest in going out and aggressively pursuing those properties that had been identified for a potential town square. So as this serves as a kind of policy document or a guidance really to us and to future councils, I just want to make that real clear. That was not a strong objective. It really was, there may be places that will work out to be a nice town square, but we just shouldn't be out there aggressively hunting and creating one. There really aren't the dollars, and I think in completing our work, we realized there are competing uses, particularly those that generate taxes and tax increment, that make a lot more sense in the various, particularly vacant properties in the core area.
Fine. Thank you very much. I appreciate that because it was a comment that I share as well, an observation. Thank you. Other discussion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the staff report on this resolution 12-1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. And you have another motion, I believe?
I do, Madam
Okay.
Mayor. I move 4 point the staff recommendation on 4.3A.
A, okay, the Central Salem Mobility Study Scope of Work.
Correct.
Right. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Member Bennett, seconded by Member Tessler. Is there discussion? Member Bennett and then Member Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this is an issue we have discussed substantially by the City Council, including a work session on it that actually resulted in the scope of the project enlarging to look across the river to West Salem and its relationship as part of our downtown, and how all of the various, and I just use the term mobility because it's in the title, but it's pedestrian, bicycle, cars, segways, and whatever else you can figure out in the future to get yourself from here to there, how that's all going to fit together. And I know there have been some interest in this. Frankly, what we're looking for, I think, here is a very clear understanding of the relationship between traffic and downtown vitality, which you just voted for. Lots of vitality downtown, our favorite term. And also for redevelopment of the downtown and north downtown area. And it's that kind, I tend to be, I think, like a number of you, concerned about just sort of planning for planning's sake. But being one of those who in this particular area has experienced what a lack of planning means, I want to kind of give you a feel for it. If you go to north downtown where an urban renewal area, a portion of our urban renewal area occurred, you'll discover there was a lack of planning on parking. And the outcome was a parking mess. You have a very successful batch of new buildings. They met the code in terms of their parking requirements, but what failed to occur, I think in a rush and a lack of planning, was to look at what's going to happen when they get successful, and across the street you get an entrepreneurial development occurring, like what's happened at Christo's, at Maynard's, at one point at MySpace, now at that kind of jazz annex for Christo's, up the street at Broadway Commons. Other small businesses along there are seeing a kind of revitalization, and you just end up with a problem. We just can't have that happening. There are very large pieces out there in north downtown that need to be developed. They are part of our economic future in this community that are not accessed by streets, that need to be planned and prepared for development. You come into the core area, there is a substantial, I think a substantial reason to take a look at whether or not the one-way grid that replaced the old one-way grid, which replaced the old two-way grid downtown, should be looked at again for its role in downtown revitalization and downtown vitality. I'm one of those that thinks a number of those one-way streets ought to be two-way. I have no idea if I'm right. It would be unfortunate, as we've done with some other stuff, seen done with other things on the council, if it's decided as the best plan by a 5-4 vote. That's the wrong way to plan. And if you don't do this kind of work, you may end up with that kind of planning, which is just politics. This, I think, results in a real clear understanding of what our options look like, why we're doing what we're doing, and I think the kind of phasing it will take, plus, just frankly, to get the kind of funding we're going to need to accomplish these kinds of goals, we'll have to have the kind of spade work done that's required to call it anything resembling shovel-ready. So I really strongly encourage you to support this.
Okay. Thank you, Member Bennett, and then Member Nanke, and then Member Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to funding, since all we've been talking about lately is money and lack thereof and what's designated for certain things and what's not, if possibly the city manager could address we basically know the URA funds aren't allowed to be used for any general fund items. But this shows $100,000 in public works money, specific with the gas tax revenues. And just if we could speak to their applicability and
Yes, and Peter Fernandez has those details.
Yes, Peter Fernandez, Interim Deputy City Manager. The budget for this study was very carefully parsed so that there's urban renewal money to do the urban renewal issues, and then gas tax money to supplement, and then to address some of the issues that are outside of the urban renewal areas. We recognized very quickly that we can't just address some of these traffic issues like going from one-way to two-way streets and not look at the areas outside of the urban renewal boundaries. So that's how that money was set aside. So there is, about $250,000. It's about half and half, and that's going to buy us what is in the staff report in terms of a scope.
if I can follow up on that.
Yes,
Gas tax money, where can it be spent?
It can be spent on planning, operating, maintaining, or constructing the facilities inside of the public right-of-way. So for anywhere. So this study could be funded, if we had the money, could be fully funded by gas taxes. It could not be fully funded by urban renewal funds.
Correct. So
I'm not
some of these-
recommending that.
No, but some of these funds could be used to pave a portion of a road somewhere.
That is correct. That is correct. That it could, the gas tax money could be used to improve sidewalks, to pave, to stripe, to pay the electric bill on signals, could pay for a traffic engineering time. So all of those things are eligible expenses of state gas taxes.
Just basically wanted to make sure people knew as we look at how we're moving forward and what funds are available for what things, that we're aware of all those decisions that we make.
Thank you. Member Clausen.
Thank you. I think I just wanted to point out one quick thing that's an interesting, when I was first running for council, I talked with a couple business owners downtown. I know there was some conversation about the work that went on commercial going southbound through downtown. Remember, we went from 4 lanes down to 3, which seems extremely counterintuitive for improving traffic flow, but good planning, good calculations led to a good product, and traffic through downtown coming south on commercial is incredibly better. I will say incredibly better. And I think this is a lot of money, and I will say I kind of had a heart attack the first time I saw the price, but it makes me feel better seeing good planning put to good use that really improved downtown. And I think this has the potential for us to have the information necessary to make good decisions downtown that can benefit the whole city. So just thought I'd throw that 2 cents out.
Thank you. Other comments? I have a comment myself, and I too share Member Clausen's reaction to the price tag, and I have questioned it all along. And I was pleased this morning when I was informed that we council members will be advised as to the actual price of the 3 parts of the study. And if you look at the report that's in your binder, it does address 3 key assumption areas, and it will be only known excuse me, by the companies who respond to the RFP exactly how much money each of those sections of the study will cost. But that would be very important for me to see, because as we're moving forward with budgeting and with carefully watching our funds, to be able to perhaps make some delays or some decisions about which parts of that study might take precedence over others as we're watching the flow of money now from month to month. And so I was pleased that there was that information this morning, and makes me more likely to be supportive of this, but it's still with great concern about the cost and spending that money at this time. Okay, other comments? All right, we'll call for the question. There was a motion by Member Bennett, and I believe seconded by Member Tesler. All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And Member Bennett, we have a third item, I believe.
Well, Mayor, I'm going to, if I may, I'm going to ask if we could return to, or check in with you on this, return to item 3, public comment.
Oh.
Or is
I'm
that moved?
sorry, I
I'm
did
sorry.
skip right over that.
But I did pick up the sheet, and no one was signed up for
Thank
public
you.
comment.
Okay, I just want to make, I
Thank
didn't.
you.
I verify that as
Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move
Yes.
the staff recommendation for action item 4.3B.
All right. It's been moved by Member Bennett, and was there a second? Seconded by Member Nanke. Member Bennett, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is the master plan for the Minto Island Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge and related infrastructure. I kind of hate to go, I will not go back through my view of planning on this kind of stuff, but I think it is important that before you try to bridge the slough, you have a plan for where it starts and where it ends. And I think in order to achieve the kind of funding assistance the city will need if we are ever going to build this bridge, we'll need to have some substantial planning in place as to where the trails are, where the two ends of the bridge meet, what the bridge looks like, all the rest of it. The one thing I want to add to it, Madam Mayor, as you know, we've had, and councilors, we've had substantial discussion on this. We've also had a lot of folks in support, folks in opposition, I think concerned about whether the bridge represents an addition to the community. And I just want to share, and I won't go into a lot of detail, hopefully other councilors know this stuff better than I do, but we're talking about linking up Minto Island, Riverfront, and Wallace Marine Parks across the Union Street Bridge into a continuous pedestrian and bicycle trail, as well as in some parts of it emergency vehicle access, particularly on the Union Street Bridge, that's just going to be really special in any community in Oregon or nationally. In addition, there are aspects of portions of it that represent parts of transportation needs in the community for certain users. Certainly a really outstanding addition to our recreational facilities. But again, this is going to be very expensive, and this is not something happening tomorrow. Probably won't be happening, except for Nanke. All the rest of us will probably be gone. Nanke just seems to live on. But you know, I think that it'll be sometime in the future before this occurs, with a great deal of work going on. This is really a first step, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Okay. Member Tesler.
Thank you. I was hoping I would see it done before I left, but I don't think it's going to happen. That's okay. Probably because I won't be here for the next 12 years, but that's all right. So I think I read the master plan is a good idea, and it is a good idea. And I agree with the plan. I'm a little concerned about a few things, and I just want to kind of summarize this to the best of my ability. You know, when we did the railroad bridge that connects to Wallace Marine, we kind of thought about, okay, this is a park-to-park connection. And it is a great park-to-park connection, and it was money well spent, and I never have regretted doing anything with that bridge. But one thing that we have is that we have a park-to-park connection, but we don't really have a commuting corridor connection. So we still have this problem with the nexus at Union Street. We still have a problem with the nexus at Wallace Marine. So we have to think outside of the park-to-park connection. And I kind of see us going down that slope with this bridge, the Minto Bridge. And, you know, we need to be careful when we talk about what we're applying for and what kind of grants we're going for, because if it truly is a park-to-park connection, and I kind of think that the Minto Bridge lends itself more to a park-to-park connection rather than a commuting corridor for several reasons. You know, one, if being a woman at night, I don't think I would be real comfortable riding my bike over the Minto Brown Slough Bridge with no lights. I mean, I'm pretty tough and I'll take you, but, you know, I wouldn't, you know, I think there would be security concerns. You know, I'm just thinking, is this really an effective, commute corridor? I think most people will still ride their bikes down River Road, as horrible as that is. So let's think about, you know, it's a park-to-park connection. It's definitely an important project for our livability and vitality. I mean, no question, once we have this bridge, I mean, we'll be able to have full marathons, 26.2 miles. I mean, we're going to have a lot of downtown access. There's going to be a lot of really wonderful things that will contribute to the economic base and the taxpayer base here. But let's get some more editorial. I'd like to see some more editorial comments from Public Works, from the biking community. I'd like to see some more input from the biking community. I would have liked to see some letters attached today that from the biking community saying we support this, we think that this is going in the right direction. Let's do a little more outreach. I read this master plan and I saw 2008 was some of the dates that were quoted. That was a while ago. So I would really encourage staff to visit with Public Works and talk to Public Works about connectivity issues. And let's make sure that we're solid on that before we apply for funds. Let's make sure we're not pounding a square peg in a round hole. Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of, I'm sorry, that's a rambling sort of condensation of some really complex issues regarding drive trips and stuff like that. But you know, I would really encourage staff to do that. That would make me feel a lot better about the master plan. I like it, it's great, but let's puff it up a little.
If I could, Mayor.
Yes.
I was at a meeting earlier today with Jim Bauer from our Downtown Advisory Board and the Friends of Two Bridges. And some of the things you've talked about, Board Member Tesler, are addressed to some degree in the mobility study that you just passed, that connection, that street connection and commuter connection to Union Street Railroad Bridge. And at the meeting I was at today, the strategic planning that the Downtown Advisory Board is doing related to a number of issues that you've talked about, as well as the Friends of Two Bridges interest in this bridge, I think will address many of these issues. So this is our master plan, but a lot of work is going on related to various aspects of it that will be coming back to council and coming back to the Urban Renewal Agency Board. So I think you'll be pleased about that. We will also, and we are in touch, and other groups are as well, with the biking community, and we'll include that as well.
Thank you. All right. Is there further comment? All right. Let's see. All right. It was moved by Councilor Bennett or by Member Bennett and seconded by Member Nanke to adopt the staff recommendation for the master plan. And we will now vote on that. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, I don't see, there is an information report in your binder. We have no special orders of business. We have no unfinished business and no public hearings for this agenda, and I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, we're going to take just a moment if people need to resettle themselves, and then we will go to the regular meeting of the Salem City Council.
Hey, Vicki. Fancy meeting you. Say again?
Please no.
All right, we will now call to order the Salem City Council meeting for January 9th, 2012. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Bennett? Here. Counselor Tessler?
Present.
Counselor Nanki?
Here.
Counselor Clausen?
Here.
Counselor Dickey? Here. Counselor Thomas? Here. Counselor Cannon is absent. Counselor Clem is absent, and in his seat is guest Counselor Don Homuth. Here. Mayor Peterson.
Here. Thank you very much. All right, we have council comment at the beginning of our meetings. Are there counselors who wish to make a comment? All right, seeing no hands raised for that, we're going to move on to the appointment of the Budget Committee member and members, rather, and I should say the Council Board and Commission's Appointments Committee recommends that the City Council interview the applicants, and we did that prior to the beginning of our formal meetings this evening. And it's now time to vote. And you councilors each have ballots in front of you. So please mark your ballots. The two openings on the Salem City Council City Budget Committee are in Ward 2 and Ward 7. You have ballots for both. So please mark your ballots, and then City Manager Norris is going to pick those up from you.
I need to give you 4, right? No. Oh, just because there was extras here. I didn't have to.
We're really practicing for the Academy Awards right now. All right.
Well, we've had so many runoffs, sometimes we've actually had to make new ones.
Oh, my goodness. Well, maybe this evening will be a little easier. All right. We will give our city attorney, assistant city attorney, Dan Atchison, time to count these ballots and organize them, and then we will announce the new appointments to the Budget Committee. I might say that I was very impressed with all. We had 3 candidates. I was impressed with all 3. I was pleased and appreciative of the numbers of people who applied and who are willing to serve on not just the Budget Committee, but on all the boards and commissions and committees that the city makes appointments to. It's a vital part of the work that we do to have that citizen involvement, and we respect and appreciate every one of them. So we are probably getting close here to having an answer. All right. And in Ward 2, we will be appointing Robert Bailey. Is Mr. Bailey here in the audience? Mr. Bailey, please stand. Thank you so much. We appreciate your willingness to serve. And now that you know fully that we will take over your Wednesday evenings and other times as well. Okay. And in Ward 7, we will be appointing Caleb Williams. Is Mr. Williams in the audience? Still, Mr. Williams, thank you so much. Appreciate you being willing to serve. And Mr. Clark, appreciate your willingness to be on the interview panel. We appreciate you very much as an applicant. Thank you. I was impressed with all of them. The city is the richer for citizen participation. All right, we have
Councilor Tessler.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Tessler. Yes.
I really am going to get that foam hand like at the big game.
I know, right. We're going to give you a big light.
I just have a question before our budget people scramble
Yes.
out of here. I just want to make sure that they know where to go and who to talk to, because we've got to get them queued up for Wednesday.
Good point. Absolutely.
So, okay,
Excellent
I just want to
point.
make sure we got that covered.
Let's make
so-
sure that they know who is who. City Manager
Yes.
Linda Norris, would
They
you
would-
like to make some announcements about
I
that?
would. So we will be contacting each of you tomorrow, and we'll give you some information to help you be prepared for the January 11th meeting that's coming up with the first overview of the department budgets. So the first two meetings are January 11th and January 25th, and so we'll make sure everyone's lined up and knows where to attend those meetings.
All right.
And now we're
Thank
getting
you.
Counselor Cannon on the telephone.
All right. Yes, Counselor Cannon will be joining our meeting shortly. Counselor Bennett, perhaps you could just take a second to walk us through the additions sheet, the yellow sheets that we have.
Yes.
And there's also a calendar on our places.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll be moving or letting you know that there are additions to our action items, including the cable television franchise extension, which Councilor Nanke will be explaining. He chairs that commission. And also under special orders of business, our rules require election of a council president the first meeting of the year. Well, as you might notice, it's the first meeting of the year, and your agenda did not include this, so we determined this morning, and this is according to council rules, we determined that this morning, and we'll ask you to suspend the rules so we can hold an election of council president on January 23rd.
Fine, thank you.
And then we have just a really full calendar coming up. But I think Cannon's here.
All right. Are you with us, Counselor Cannon?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Yes, we can hardly hear you. Can
will
you
speak up.
adjust the volume on that? Try again. Hello?
Happy to be with you tonight.
Much better. You're sounding stronger by the second. All right, here we go. Thank you. And welcome, Counselor Cannon.
Thank you so much.
We have reports of boards, commissions, and committees, and this evening we have the Salem Social Service Advisory Board update from the YWCA Salem Outreach Shelter Services. And we have guests to speak for 3 minutes this evening. Welcome. State your name and address. And
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Peterson and council members. My name is Michelle Godfrey, and I am the new executive director for the YWCA Salem. I've been on the job for about 3 months, so go easy. I'm told I get 6 months for the newbie card.
right.
Okay, anyway.
Well, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Every night in Salem, more than 20 families are homeless without shelter. That's not 20 people, but it's 20 families. And that's because families are the fastest growing segment of our homeless population, which means that a great percentage of homeless people in our area are children. YWCA's Salem Outreach Shelter serves an average of 70-plus families and more than 140 children each year. On a typical night, we have 18 parents and 35 children calling our shelter home. Since we opened our doors in 1988, we've helped more than 900 families and 2,000 children. Each family gets their own room. We have 14, and each family makes a commitment to change their lives. Their average stay with us is between 4 and 6 months. During that time, we train them to become self-sufficient. They set up a savings account. They apply for housing assistance. They look for work. They do whatever tasks that our family advocates lay out for them in their individualized plans. The kids in our shelter get very special loving care and attention, and they participate in activities to restore their family bonds. Last year, there were about 1,000 students in the Salem-Keizer School District that were homeless. 75 of them lived in our shelter. Our biggest struggle right now is capacity. I don't need to tell you the recession has hit our area very hard. We're seeing a lot of people that have never been homeless or hungry before, but some sudden life event has changed everything for them. These folks have pride and they want to do it on their own, but the resources just aren't there anymore. Right now, we have 50 families on our waiting list, which is more than ever in our history. The City of Salem Community Development Block Grant helps pay for our advocacy staff, and they move our families along towards self-sufficiency. There are always barriers to overcome and resources drying up all over, but we have very experienced staff that work creatively to find options for our families. And with CDBG, we can keep the shelter at capacity and get people on their feet just as soon as possible. So I just want to thank you so much for your support. Thank you for welcoming me to the YWCA Salem. I've been a Salem resident for a number of years, and I look forward to getting to know all of you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming, and I apologize that I did not acquaint you with the light system. The amber light
I was
is a
warned.
2-minute warning. Oh, you were, all right. Because the red minute is the one where, the red light is the one where you have to stop.
People
But I
who know me
wanted to
know
be
me for my
sure-
brevity, so it's okay.
Okay, good. I wanted to be sure you did have time to tell us what you were here
Thank
to
you.
tell
I
us.
also want to
Excellent.
give you time for questions if you have any.
Are there questions? All right. Well, I want to say a really heartfelt welcome to the community as the leader of the YWCA. It's very important work that you do and that your board of directors and staff are doing for our community. So thank you very much. And I believe Councilor Nanke has a
Yes,
comment.
and I just have to ask, if people want to assist you, how do they go about getting a hold of you?
Well, you can go to our website, ywcasalem.org, or just call us at 503-581-9922, and we are located at 1255 Broadway Northeast, right across the street from Broadway Commons.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. All right. We have public comment this evening, and there are 2 people at this point who've signed up for public comment. Paul Jaudas and then Dean Georgakopoulos. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, wonderful. Paul, will you please state your name and address, and you know, I believe, how the lights work.
Yes, I know how
Welcome.
the lights work.
Okay.
My name is Paul Jaudas, and I represent Americans for Prosperity, Marion County, as well as Polk County. First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the City Council and the city staff for joining us in our open meeting last Thursday to talk about the Salem City budget. We really appreciate you coming. I also appreciated the mayor and Councilor Tesler for coming also to listen and participate in the meeting. We had just over 50 people there, and I think it was a very good program. Gave the public an opportunity to listen to what's going on with the budget and also an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you again. I need to bring this up. You just passed a motion to spend $250,000 for a study. If my calculations are correct, that's about 2.3 of the $10.5 million shortfall that you need to make up in the next 4 years. This could have been a first step in making up that shortfall. I know it's been long in the planning, but that's $250,000 that just got spent this evening. One question that was brought up was, and this was by a counselor, how much are we willing to pay for services? Because that's what's really going to be cut this year, as well as in the upcoming 4 years. Well, I'd like to be able to be asked what I'm willing to spend. And we didn't get a chance to do that. So I know it's going to be a tough year. It's going to be a really tough next 4 years if the economy doesn't start turning around. And we're going to be here keeping an eye on you and watching you like a hawk. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Councilor Tesler?
I have a question for staff.
Yes, okay.
May I ask that now? I'll ask City Manager Linda Norris, who I'm sure has the answer. Could you please illuminate us to where the $250,000 came from and how it is probably not connected to the 10.5 shortfall?
Right, and it's a common misunderstanding, I think, in the community. The $10.5 million in permanent reductions that we need to make over the next 4 years is general fund money, and that's the money that comes primarily from property tax and franchise fees, state shared revenue, et cetera. we also have different funds, and the money that goes into those funds can only be used for those purposes. So half of the money is coming from the urban renewal area, about 150,000, will come from the riverfront urban renewal area. That money can only be used for specific projects in that area. So that money cannot be used to help fund police and fire and other needs, other general fund needs. The other half of the money is coming from the Fund 155, excuse me, which is our transportation fund, and that's gas tax revenue, which can only be used for certain purposes as well. So even if the city or the agency board had not moved forward with this study, that amount of money would not have been available for the general fund. The other thing I think is important to remember is, especially in the downtown urban renewal area, there will be ability to, as we get tax increment money over the next 10 to 20 years, to make some additional major investments in that area. And to do those right, we need to have this study so that we can make the best use of those monies when they become available.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
The gas tax money could have been used to repair streets and roads and sidewalks?
Yes, that money, as we explained in that motion from Board Member Nanke's question, can be used for other purposes, but it can't be used to address the permanent reductions we have to make in the general fund.
But we'll be spending money on street repairs anyway, won't we?
We do have money available for street repairs. Is that what you're asking?
Well, there could have been additional money.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Okay, are there further questions for Mr. Jowdis? All right, thank you very much. And our another person for public comment is Dean George Jacopoulos. Is that correct? Either place, they both work. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. The amber light will come on at the end of 2, and then the red light comes on when your time is up.
My name is Dean George Jacopoulos, and I live at here in Salem, up in the north end in the Inglewood area. And I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak to you. This was kind of off the cuff, so I hope you excuse my informality. I didn't come prepared for anything specific, but I did come today to hear about the bridge for the Minnow Brown. And my concern is that partly on, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, Mr. Bennett's comment, is the time quotient that we have here. And the bridge that went over to Wallace Marine Park, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it took approximately 10 years for that to be finished, from the start to finish, roughly, from inspiration. And I'm just requesting that the council members and others all consider how much of a vital, I think, a link that this will be for the community who does a lot of outdoor activities and uses the parks on a regular basis. And we have a vibrant city here that does do a lot of that, and I think it's really valuable. And I've been really looking forward to this being eventually completed. I've been a part of the city here since 1981. And I discovered Minnow Brown only a year or two after that, and I've been kind of dreaming of this idea for a long time. And when it came to light, I was really excited about it. And I'm really hoping that it doesn't take 10 years again. I mean, I understand the realities of government and all the procedures that have to come into play, and timelines and such. And that's all understandable. And the money is, I know it's not the highest priority project you have to concern yourself with. But I really am hoping that it won't take 10 years. Like 4 or 5 really seems reasonable. 5, maybe even 6. But I'm just saying, I hope that comes to be. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming down. We appreciate your perspective. And as a park user, we know that you bring the devotion of that to your testimony. Thank you very much. Are there questions? Councillor Tessler?
I just wanted to also thank you for coming down. It's really nice to hear from people who really do want to see the bridge. I think it's actually been longer than 10 years now, because I remember there was a guy who was a city councilor I believe for Ward 2, and I think was probably 20 years.
Mayor Gertenrich was... For the train bridge?
No, for the Minto Brown Bridge, for the bridge across the slough. And he said that they actually gave him a little model of it when he left council. So I think that that people have been thinking about this bridge for a really long time, and I think we finally got to the point where, you know, we're almost going to make it into a reality. And, you know, if it does take 10 years, it'll take 10 years. But you'll be here. I'll be here. Chuck Bennett will definitely be here, and you know Brad will be here, and so I mean we'll persevere, you know. But thank you for coming down. I too believe it's just a very important thing for the community, and I can't wait to go across it, and I know you can't either. But I would encourage you to check out a group called Friends of Two Bridges, and be involved with them because they're a group that's pretty actively working with us on these bridges. So.
Excellent, thank you. I believe our city manager has a comment.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, the schedule that we're on right now is a 4 to 5 year schedule, and it really depends on our ability to achieve the funding that we need. We're applying for a number of grants already, and we'll continue to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you again for coming down this evening. All right, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Councillor Bennett, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the consent calendar with additions.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanke to move the the consent calendar with additions. Councillor Bennett, would you like to speak to your motion?
Excuse me, I have to just look at it here. Yeah, no, we've been over most of these items this evening. I think it's, looks good to me.
We're fine. All right, all right. Are there other questions or comments by councilors? All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt to accept the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. Special orders of business now. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move addition of special order of business number 5A, election of council president.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Dickey. And to add it to the agenda.
For January 23rd.
No,
Is it-
meaning just to add it to the
Get it
agenda
on
for
the
today
agenda.
since it's
Oh.
an additions.
Oh, I see.
All right. To add it to the agenda for today. All right. Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. The question before us is to add that item to the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, Councillor Bennett, do you have a motion?
Yes, thank you,
All
Madam
right.
Mayor. I move the City Council suspend its Rule 2B and hold the election for Council President on January 23rd, 2012.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanke to suspend the rules and to place that item on the agenda for the election on January 23rd. All those in favor say aye. Oh, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just
Sorry.
want to alert you all, it takes a 2/3 vote of those present to suspend the rules. This is one of those items that just, it's set by rule when we do this, which is the first meeting, but it wasn't posted to the agenda. When we went over the agenda this morning, it was felt that you all ought to have a heads up that it's coming, and that's all this is about. So I'd encourage everyone to vote for
So
it.
they can gear up for raising their
Yeah,
hands. in
gear up to
nominations.
run, yeah.
All right. Yes, all right. All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have no unfinished business this evening. There are information reports in your packet. Are there any questions of staff on those information reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to our public hearings. We have a public hearing, item 8A, continuation of deliberations on ordinance bill number 15-11.
Yes, if we could introduce.
City recorder needs
public
to
hearing.
introduce.
Oh, for the public
Is that
hearings,
right?
I'm sorry, just for the
Yes.
ordinances.
Oh, for the ordinance, not for the public hearings. All right.
There will be, not for this particular public hearing, it's a continuation of deliberations, so there's no introduction, but there will be for the other two.
Okay, good, thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move continuation of deliberations for 6 months. That would set further action on this ordinance bill for July 9th.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Tessler to move this item, to continue this item for 6 months to the July 9th meeting. Is there a discussion? First Councillor Bennett and then Councillor Nanki.
Just, this is, as you'll recall, this is the unsolicited written materials. It's pretty much the shopper in the driveway problem. We've been working on this with the Statesman Journal, I think successfully overall over the past almost a year. It's been a year. And I think slowly but surely we're getting this corrected without having to change the law in a way that would somehow cause them to have to cancel their publication. So in talking with the publisher of the Statesman Journal, we agreed that we would just keep track of how things are going and keep contact with him. I feel he's very sincere in trying to correct problems as they develop in this area. This may be a really good example of how you really don't have to change the law to make the law work. Just having it sitting out there can keep some people focused on doing the right thing. So I'd really suggest we continue this.
All right. Councillor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to declare that I did watch the public hearing on this as I was absent during that, and I think had one of the best guest counselors of ever sitting in my stead.
You might clarify that.
My son sat in for me that evening. So I will be participating in extended deliberations.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Dickey.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I really just want to say I appreciate the Statesman Journal for what they have done in cleaning up this problem. I've seen a huge improvement in my neighborhood. Having said that, I still see from time to time the newspapers in the street or on the sidewalk. So I think there's probably room for improvement, and I think this is the right way to go about this. I'm not comfortable dropping it, but I think we're doing a good job, or they are doing a good job of addressing it without changing the ordinance or creating an ordinance.
Thank you. Councillor Nanki.
And now that I'm actually participating. I have noticed an improvement as I cruise down the back way home. I did notice over the course of the holiday period that a few driveways had multiple stacks of actual newspapers, which is hard. It's like, well, a lot of people could be gone for 1 or 2 days or, a week and a half. So as far as just wondering what policy is, if you see one, do you throw another one right on top of it or not? Would be an interesting question and answer from the newspaper, because that, in fact, I see two, there's nobody in that house.
Right.
If I could,
Yes.
I just had that conversation with Steve Silberman from the Statesman Journal, and they are reinforcing again to their people who deliver the papers, if you see one there from the previous week, don't put another one in fact, pick it up. And so they're working very diligently on that. So
No,
they
these
don't
weren't the pink
Right.
insert. It was an actual newspaper.
Oh, a
daily.
newspaper. I'll
Yeah.
pass that on. Okay, as well.
Okay, good. All right. Councillor Tessler.
Since I was one of the wards that had one of the biggest problems, we have seen an improvement. I have heard from people that there has been an improvement. I've noticed upon my drives in the morning, I don't see them, you know, literally scattered everywhere. However, I will still mention that I did have to ask 6 times for them not to leave that in my driveway. And so I'm kind of wondering, I'm pretty persistent. I'm wondering how many other people would not like to have that left at their house. And so I still would like to see them maintain a list of people who want it. And the people say, I want it, and it's delivered to that address. This broadcasting, I don't agree with. I think it creates waste, and it wastes paper, and it's not a good use of natural resources. But, you know, that's my opinion, and I did voice that to Mr. Silverman, and we'll just see what happens over the next couple of months.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nanke?
Just for clarification, because in the comment that I made was actually for solicited written material versus unsolicited.
Right.
And just wanted to make sure that it went on the right, because that technically is the property owner's responsibility to say, terminate my service because I'm going to be gone for these days. But then there's still the responsibility on what do you do? Do you still just throw them there and have, so.
Right, yes.
It doesn't belong inside of this public hearing deliberation, so.
Right. Okay. It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor, who seconded that? Dickey, I believe. No, I'm sorry. Councillor Tesler, thank you.
So soon we forget.
Yeah, no.
To adopt the staff recommendation, and we will now vote. No further questions or comments?
It was to continue to
Oh,
July
it's to continue
9th.
to July, right.
6 months
To
to a
the
time.
July 9th. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We have another continuation of hearing, an appeal of preliminary declaration for urban growth area development permit number 10-01. Let's see, I believe we have a staff presentation on
Madam Mayor,
this. Yes.
before you begin,
Yes.
we need to read the criteria and the public notice for the hearing before we get started.
For this one, okay. All right.
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing regarding an appeal of preliminary declaration for urban growth area development permit number 10-1, located at the southwest corner of Cordon Road Southeast and McClay Road Southeast. This will be a new hearing and will result in a decision that supersedes that rendered by the planning administrator. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward applicable criteria found in Salem Revised Code, Chapter 66, the Salem Transportation System Plan, the Public Works Design Standards, and the following City of Salem master plans: stormwater management, water system, wastewater management, and comprehensive park system. Testimony may also address any other criteria a person believes applies to the decision. The record of the planning administrator action with respect to this request is part of the record before council. Failure to raise an issue in the hearing in person or by letter, or failure to provide statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a staff presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Peterson, City Councilors. My name is
speak right into the mouthpiece there.
My name is Glenn Davis. I'm the Chief Development Engineer in the Public Works Department, and I would like to open by entering the staff report and the attachments into the record.
Okay.
My staff presentation will begin with a brief description of the application history that led us to this public hearing. Next, I will explain UGA permits in general, and then I'll describe the conditions of approval, first for the original decision, and then for the recommended modifications, and then I'll close with the conclusion, a summary of the staff recommendation. So the subject property is seen here in blue. The property is located at the intersection of McClay Road and Cordon Road. And the general vicinity is shown on the screen. You see on the bottom is Highway 22, just for reference. And notice also that the property is at the edge of the urban growth boundary, shown here in red. Here's a closer view of the property, which is surrounded by McClay Road on the north, Cordon Road on the southeast, and Old Maclay Road on the southwest. The developer submitted an application for a UGA permit in March 2010. So we are conducting our public hearing here in 2012, almost 2 years after the original application. So I'll point out that the original decision, the appeal from the applicant, and the original public hearing date back to 2010. The reason for the delay is that the public hearings have been continued for about 18 months, so city staff and the applicant can negotiate a resolution to the appeal. I'll explain those negotiations later in the presentation. Made a mistake there, sorry.
He's speed.
Hit the wrong.
Staff reporting. I saw the recommendation.
Sorry, there's your dream. Wrong button. I'll spend a few moments explaining UGA permits in general. So, UGA permits relate to the urban growth area. And on the map here, you see that the urban growth area, or the UGA, is shaded in kind of a pink color here, and that's the color that's subject to these permits we're doing today. The border in red is the urban growth boundary, or UGB. There's a lot of acronyms here, so I'll try to keep those straight. The area in blue is the urban service area, or USA. The urban growth area is the land inside of the red boundary, which is the urban growth boundary, but outside of the blue area, which is the urban service area. So in mathematical terms, because I'm an engineer, I have to put the math on here. UGB is minus the USA is equal to the UGA. So in other words, the properties inside the blue area are exempted from UGA permits, except in unusual circumstances. And properties outside the blue area, but inside of the urban growth boundary, require this permit, and that's why we're here today, to talk about the UGA permit. So, what is UGA permit? It applies to the urban growth area, and second, it analyzes a limited aspect of the development, these major and minor facilities. The major minor facilities relate to the city's infrastructure master plans, as the city recorder read. The minor facilities are connections from the development to those major facilities. Okay, so on the following slides now, I'm going to first describe the conditions of approval from the original decision, and then explain how they're modified in the recommendation. And I'll do that by addressing each of these pieces of infrastructure separately. So first, we'll talk about sanitary sewer. Sanitary sewer is very straightforward. Here's the back to the property. We see an orange line on here. That's a 30-inch sewer main, which is perfectly adequate to serve any development on the property. So there's no requirements for sewer. Next, we'll see water. The nearest water main is a 12-inch water main located 600 feet to the northwest on Maclay Road. Consistent with the Water Master Plan, the original decision required the developer to construct a 12-inch main, shown here and dashed on the screen, from the end of the existing main to Cordon Road. The applicant objected to this requirement in the appeal. The applicant pointed out that the water main should not be constructed all the way to Cordon Road, but instead only needs to be extended to the point where the development will connect to the public system. So here on the screen is an approximation of the modified condition, which is shorter than the original decision. The final alignment will not be known exactly until we see the building plans and the infrastructure plans that come with the future development. Next, for storm drainage, a tributary of the west middle fork of the Little Pudding River flows south to north through the property. The original decision included 3 requirements related to stormwater, but I'll only discuss the one condition that was appealed by the applicant. The original decision required the dedication of a stormwater easement along the waterway, approximately 15 feet on each side. The applicant objected to this requirement in the appeal related to the proportionality and the taking of all the land. So after the appeal was filed, the city staff entered negotiations to purchase the easterly portion of the applicant's property for use as the natural area and a stormwater facility. So the land area that was being negotiated for sale is shown here on the screen. This land sale negotiation was the cause for the 18-month delay. The city and the applicant were not able to come to terms on the sale, and the negotiations were ended fairly recently. So upon reviewing the applicant's appeal, staff is recommending to modify this condition, the condition for the easement, by omitting that requirement from the UGA decision. Now, this recommendation does not mean that there will never be an easement. Instead, it allows staff to revisit this issue at the time of site plan review when a development application is submitted for the property. Final infrastructure is streets. I'll point out this transportation system plan designates Cordon Road as a parkway. A parkway street is the highest designation in our street system with the largest right-of-way and widest improvements. Maclay Road is a minor arterial street, which is slightly lesser than a parkway, but still a high-volume street. Old Maclay is a local street, which has the lowest classification and the least traffic. The applicant appealed the right-of-way and street improvement requirements in the original decision. The original decision required additional right-of-way along the entire frontage of Cordon and Maclay Roads. The schematic of those requirements is shown on the screen. The original decision also required street improvements along the entire frontage of Maclay Road and Old Maclay Road. The approximate extent of those improvements is shown here on the screen also. The applicant's appeal states that the street requirements are not roughly proportional to the impacts of development. Because the UGA process precedes a development plan, this question of proportionality cannot be fully analyzed right now, but we need to wait until an application comes with a real development plan. So the recommendation is to modify the decision so that staff can determine these proportionality issues later in the development process during site plan review. This solution will give us the opportunity to address the proportionality in context of a development proposal. So in conclusion, staff recommends 3 modifications to affirm the original decision with 3 modifications. One of them is to reduce the length of the street, of the water main extension. Second, to eliminate the easement for stormwater. And third, to determine proportionality of street requirements at site plan review. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. I have a question of council. Do we Are there questions for staff right now?
We should hear the applicant or the
He says we can do it either way.
Typically,
We can
wait
do it
until
both ways.
everything-
I'm fine waiting.
All right. Well, we'll wait then until, is that all right with you, Councilor Tessler, or? Okay, all right. I believe that the applicant or applicant's counsel might be here this evening. Do we have a, is there anyone to appear for this hearing? I don't see anyone signed up. Yes, uh-huh.
I'm actually one of the representatives from I don't have anything to say. I just want to let you know.
All right, well, we appreciate knowing who you are. Thank you. All right, okay. All right, I don't think I've had this experience before where we had a hearing, but the applicant wasn't available. So why don't we proceed to the questions that staff had, and then we'll go ahead. And Councilor Tessler first, and then Councilor Bennett. And then
Thank you.
Councilor Nanke.
Thank you. I appreciate that. First of all, I'd like to tell Mr. Davis that you're probably the smartest person I know right now. I was trying to look at this last night, and it was in Chinese. So, I mean, I really appreciate you simply breaking this into easily digestible bits. I have some questions for you. The number one question I have, can I ask you what's going to be built here? I mean, do you know what they want to build here?
They have told us they were thinking of a gas station.
And how big is this property?
It's a little over an acre, give or take.
Okay, and can I ask you this question, if you can sum this up for me? You're asking, can you go back a slide to where your bullet points are?
These?
Right there, yeah. So you're asking for us in this very long recommended action for these 3 points. And I guess I just want to talk to you about this eliminate easement for the stormwater. I guess my question is, why would you suggest that? Why would you suggest that? I hear you saying eliminate it, and then we're going to come back to it when they come to us with a development permit. Why would you suggest removing it now?
The provision for that comes out of Chapter 140, where Chapter 140 is our floodplain ordinance. And to put it simply, the condition really is more appropriate at site plan review, because it's not really something Chapter 66 addresses, this issue of an easement for the waterway. Initially, it seemed like it made sense at the time, but with the applicant's appeal coming, decided it was really more appropriate later. So it's something that will almost certainly come back, just not at this particular approval.
If I may, the intent of the urban growth area preliminary declaration, Chapter 66 of the Salem Revised Code, is to provide information to developers about what the off-site improvements need to be. Okay, that it was designed that way in the 1980s when it was adopted, so that when you came in, it was the original growth management tool of the city of Salem, and the idea was to limit leapfrog development. So the best way to develop was to develop, contiguous to what was already developed, but if you developed further out, then you had these requirements, and the purpose of this first step in development was for the developer, the property owner, to understand what he or she would need to do, what streets would need to be widened, what water lines would need to be put in, sewer lines, et cetera. So it becomes basically this list that you have as a developer. Over the years, the staff has determined that it's best to provide more information rather than less, so that a developer really understands what they're facing right from the beginning, right from the get-go. What Mr. Davis is explaining is that there will probably be a requirement for an easement for that creek that goes through there, but Chapter 66 of the code is not the place where that's required. So it's easier, since there was an appeal of that provision, it's easier to just step back from it, instead of providing that service to the developer, but nevertheless discuss it later when they come in for a site plan review. It's just a quirk of the way Chapter 66 works.
Okay, but I'm just saying with a gas station as a planned use, with hazmat concerns, with underground tanks, with an active stream channel and geomorphology that would probably lend itself to flooding, it seems kind of odd to just walk away from eliminating an easement.
Yeah, Chapter 66 does not require the property owner to tell us what they are developing. So they've simply had those conversations with us informally. They could come back and submit a site plan for an apartment building, for a nursery, for a convenience store. And it could really be whatever the zoning bears, and if the zoning doesn't bear it, they can apply for a change of zoning. So Chapter 66 is only, what we're here tonight is only about what the public infrastructure needs to be to support, the off-site public infrastructure needs to be to support developing the parcel. So there's no argument that we need to protect that stream and that there will more than likely be an easement to protect it, and that all of the things that you've mentioned, Counselor, about protecting that stream will be a part of the development review and approval process. It's just not a part of this process. It will be a part of the site plan review process that comes later when the applicant actually submits a site plan, a development proposal.
Okay. I believe Counselor Bennett and then Counselor Clausen. Oh, and Counselor Nanke and then Counselor Clausen. All right.
Well, kind of given what was said, what would ever be the grounds for denying this?
There are no grounds. There are no grounds for denying an urban growth area preliminary declaration. There are only grounds to remand it back to staff for additional review.
And that's what's been going on here? It just keeps giving, that's why it's continuing all this time?
Right. There are no grounds for denying this.
What's the zoning out there?
IBC.
IBC.
Industrial business campus. Yes.
You gotta be kidding. This is like a Silicon Valley Park.
Yes.
Zoning.
Yes.
And Counselor, just so you know, the proposed gas station probably is not consistent with that zoning. So either the zoning would have to be changed or the proponent would have to change what they're proposing.
The only, I guess the only question I'd have is why would you back away from these? I still don't understand why at this point, early on, where you say more information is better, not to be very, very clear with the developer that, you know, you're going to expect something around that stream bed, and you're going to pretty much be asking for the wider roads. I don't know why you're not asking for the water line either. I'm not sure I quite get why you backed off on that too, but.
Well, I'll answer the easier one first. The reason we backed off from the water line is our sense is that that street will ultimately be vacated. We just don't know what's going to happen to the south. But
you're going to vacate? I use that street all the time.
They're strong. You should, Council, you should be using the signal. It's better for you.
Old Clay Road. You're gonna.
That's the better way. The answer to the other question, and I'm sorry, Mr. Tosh is out ill today. Very simply, the answer to that is these are land use decisions that are subject to review by the Land Use Board of Appeals. And when we don't have specifics, then we really open ourselves up to review by LUBA, and it's just better to do it, to do that level, you know, that exaction is better handled at site plan review than at Chapter 66, than at UGA.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Nanke and then Counselor Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And in contrast, I wouldn't agree with Counselor Bennett as early in the process because we're a couple of years. But the delay was actually due to the attempt to acquire a portion of that property is what I'm.
Yeah, and we could not have delayed without the applicant's full support and approval. So there was a tremendous amount of dialogue with the applicant and the representatives, not just about the potential for acquisition of the property, but issues related to zoning, and there were a number. It's a difficult site, and it's a little out of sequence given how far away the water is, et cetera. Right. So there's just a lot of issues that we were in discussions with the applicant
And
about.
I can see with the water piece. My question is more on how this will affect future preliminary declarations. As far as, do we just never do anything with stormwater on them now? Because somebody can say wait, or with streets because of what I'm going to do.
The difference here is this was an on-site decision rather than an off-site. Chapter 66 is more about off-site. So we do address stormwater, we do address parks in UGAs, but only when they are an off-site requirement. So if this were a bigger piece of property, if this had issues, related to that creek outside, then it absolutely would be part of the preliminary declaration.
So it's mostly because this is like a 1 acre site, and normally we see them for a larger.
Right, and that issue specifically
development.
was about the easement on the site as opposed to any issues beyond the site.
Okay.
Councillor Clausen.
I think my question probably falls right in the same vein here. The proportionality question, I'm assuming, is the same type of thing. The proportionality be addressed with the site plan review and the use of this site. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then a follow-up to, in the presentation, I'm seeing 3 modifications on here. I feel like I'm counting, in the staff report, I feel like I'm counting more modifications. Is this the same recommendation as what was just told to us?
This is a summary of what you have. If you go through the list, you'll see.
Because I didn't, in the presentation, I don't hear about the convey land for dedication of right-of-way along the frontage of McClay Road.
You see, in the staff report,
For the proportionality on how much that actually is.
it distinguishes different streets in the staff report, so you'll see different conditions for each street.
Okay. Is dedication of right-of-way the same as street improvement?
There's no dedication of right-of-way and street improvements are 2 separate categories, and so, but this is summarized here that the street requirements are going to be the proportionality be reviewed as site plan review. Those are combined into one subject on the summary.
I see. So the right-of-way and street improvements are both in bullet point 3 up here.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing it right.
Okay.
Thanks.
And basically, it's you have to give us your property and then make it like the rest of the city. It's kind of a double hit. We're taking this risk, but you have to build it. Right, I just didn't catch the proportionality was both.
All right, is there any further, are there any further questions for Mr. Davis? All right, the public hearing is now closed.
Yeah, Mayor, there's a chance for rebuttal by the applicant.
No, whenever.
But the applicant isn't
The
here.
applicant hasn't spoken.
So they still don't have, so they can't rebut because they never testified.
There's nobody here. who
My
signed up.
apologies.
That's all right. You never know what may have happened between A and B. All right, the public hearing is closed. We will now entertain a motion for this item. Councillor Bennett,
May I?
do you have a motion, or Councillor Nanke?
Yeah, Mayor, since this is
Oh,
in-
that's right, this is in your
Although
ward.
it says
All right,
Ward
I'm
2,
sorry.
Councillor Nanke. I just noticed that for the first time.
Well, we did do redistricting, you know.
I would move staff recommendation.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Councillor Nanke and seconded by Councillor Bennett to move staff recommendation. Is there discussion?
I would just like to
Councillor
speak briefly to the
Nanke,
motion
and
in
then
regards that
Clausen.
it's
Yeah.
nice to actually see it finally show up here rather than the process we've had of continuing it forever with not a lot of information exactly where we were on that. So I'm happy to at least get to the next step and we can see how it progresses from there. The modifications by staff seem logical for the size of the potential development and the fact that any of those items will be picked up at the next step. So,
Okay. All right, Councillor Clausen?
I think it's important to note, too, that this is a delay that's been approved and been, in the works with the owner for this 18-month delay, because I don't want anybody getting the idea that the city's been holding this up for 2 years. It's not the case. This has been something that's been cordial, I guess, would be the best way to say it. So, that's a big thing, I think, for especially in this economy. If we can bring something here that brings some jobs and some economic interest, that's a good thing. So I'm happy to see it going forward, and I'm really happy to hear that it was on good terms.
Thank you. All right. It's been moved by Councillor Nanke and seconded by Councillor Bennett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. And again, thank you to Glenn Davis for your presentation.
Smartest
Thank
man
you.
in the
All
world.
right, we have a third ordinance bill. Now, does the recorder present this one
Public hearing.
for the public hearing? City recorder.
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing regarding engrossed ordinance bill number 3611 relating to the Portland Fairgrounds Road Overlay Zone, amending SRC 143B.020, 143.140, 143B.50, and 143B.160, and adopting revisions to the City of Salem Development Design Handbook. The proposed amendments remove the Rose Gardens mixed-use area, Area 2, from the Portland Fairgrounds Road Overlay Zone.
And is there a staff report?
Yes, there is. Good evening, Mayor Peterson, members of the council, Bryce Bishop with the Planning Department.
Welcome.
And so I'm here tonight to give you a background on the proposed code amendment to the Portland Fairgrounds Road Overlay Zone, Chapter 143B of the Salem Revised Code. And in way of a little background, this amendment was initiated by the council back in October of last year. And this overlay zone was established back in 2001 in response to a study, which is kind of a long name study, the Salem Industrial Northgate Area Local Access and Circulation Study. And that was a plan that was adopted by the council back in 1999. And this overlay zone implements the objectives of that SINALAC study, and then it also has a couple main objectives in its intent and purpose. The first one is that it is aiming to promote a variety of uses along the Portland Fairground Road corridor, and then secondly, the overlay zone with its development standards recognizes that Northgate area as an important northern entrance into the city of Salem. So that's the intent and purpose of the zone. So here I have a graphic of the overlay zone. You can see that it's fairly substantial in size. It starts out on around the southern end, Sunnyview Road, and then continues all the way up to the north end, up near Interstate 5, where it intersects with Portland Road. And the overlay zone is composed of four main components. There is the general overlay zone area, which is the area shown in yellow. And then there are the three mixed-use sub-areas that are within that overall district, and those include the Pine Street mixed-use area, which is the southern mixed-use node or mixed-use area, and that's where Hollywood Station is with Center 50 Plus, a two-story office building and residential townhome development. Then there is the Rose Gardens mixed-use area, Area 2, which is the middle of the mixed-use nodes. And then there's finally the Northgate mixed-use area, which is up on the eastern side of Portland Fairgrounds Road, opposite of Belfry Drive. So the amendment that we're looking at tonight specifically deals with Area 2, which is the Rose Gardens mixed-use area. So here's a close-up view of the mixed-use area, and it's about 13.6 acres in size. It's comprised of several individual tax lots that happen to be under one ownership, and that's the ownership of the Larry and Jeanette Epping Family Foundation. And in terms of the surrounding development and the character of the area, you have residential uses that are to the east. You have an established residential neighborhood. To the south, you have a mixture of multiple family uses with state offices, the DMV here, and then other commercial and single-family uses. And then as you go up Portland Road and then south on Portland Road, you'll see a mixture of office, commercial, industrial type of establishments. And then on the west side, you have the railroad line, which kind of hems in the western side of the overlay zone. So the need for the proposed amendment stems from the lack of the development that's occurred on the property since 2001 when the overlay zone was enacted. So it's been vacant for about 12 years. And so back in June of last year, representatives of the property owner approached the North Gateway Redevelopment Advisory Board to inquire what would the possibility be for the city to amend the overlay zone to eliminate those barriers that are seen as a barrier to marketing the property and the property's redevelopment. And so there were discussions with the advisory board, planning staff, and urban renewal staff were all engaged, and we came away with the proposed amendment that I'll be discussing here soon. And the specific concerns that were identified related to how the development standards, specifically those ones that apply to the mixed-use areas and the Rose Gardens in this case, are harder for larger scale retail uses or users such as a grocery store to meet. And the concerns kind of reflect the change in the conditions in the area. In the past, I think these mixed-use nodes were supposed to be high density residential, commercial, activities to occur here, but that hasn't occurred. The economy, hasn't allowed that to bear out, and so you have this 13.6 acre property that's sitting vacant, and so they're looking for a way to bring some activity and use to it. So in order to address the concerns, we've proposed to remove the Rose Gardens mixed-use area from the overlay zone. So the little blue shaded area would go away. That property will still remain within the broader Broadway High Street overlay zone, and that allows and that will allow the underlying commercial retail zone to become the main use and development standard driver for what occurs on the property. But it also allows for the development standards in the overlay zone that are important to creating a pedestrian-friendly, active, and good-looking environment along Portland Road to maintain. And so now I'm going to go over a few slides to discuss the standards that are specifically will no longer be applicable under this proposed amendment that have created a problem. The first one is the minimum 0.5 floor area ratio. So floor area ratio, in terms of background, is a way to achieve a certain level of development density on a property. And what it is, it's the ratio of the total building square footage on a lot to the total lot area itself. And so in my examples here, you have, for instance, this is a 0.5 FAR, how it would look. You would have half the lot covered with a one-story building, 50%. That's the 0.5. And so if you wanted to maintain that 0.5 FAR and you wanted to have less lot coverage, like in half, you could go with a two-story building at 25% lot coverage. If you went to a four-story building, 12.5% of the lot would be covered. So essentially, it's just the area of the lot in comparison to the total building square footage. So when you look at the Epping Family Foundation property, the total size of that is 13.6 acres. So you'd be looking at about 296,000 square feet of building area that would have to be provided on the property. And if you're looking at a single standalone retail user, that 296,000 far exceeds like what a grocery store would be able to provide. So that'll be eliminated with this proposed amendment. Another couple other standards that are problematic are that the zone currently limits the maximum building size for non-mixed-use developments to 50,000 square feet. So if you had, for instance, like a Winco grocery store that typically comes in around 95,000 square feet, wouldn't be able to meet that 50,000 square foot limitation, and then they'd have to ask for a variance and then go through the whole process to justify why they should be treated differently under the code. So that standard goes away. And then also there's a requirement that if you do a mixed-use development in the overlay zone, that you have to have a second floor that is equal to half of the ground area of the first floor. And so when you look at so if, for instance, a mixed-use development wanted to come in at the grocery store, that grocery store would have to have a second story, and that's just really not really typical for a grocery store unless you're in a highly, high density, high population density area where you have a strong market demand and just a really different dynamic than we have out here at this point. And then finally, the other standard that's that is a kind of a stumbling block for the development or future development of the property is the maximum setback from the public street right-of-way. So currently, the design standards applicable to the overlay zone would require a maximum setback of 10 feet from the street. And when you look at a grocery store, for instance, that's just not that's not the development pattern that you typically see. Usually, they're set back, near the back of the lot with a parking area in front. And so under this proposed amendment, the 10-foot maximum will no longer apply. An alternative, there would be a design standard, the default standard for outside of mixed-use areas, a maximum of 60 feet. So we feel that this provides additional flexibility to provide some parking between the building and the property without, losing, that important relationship of the building to the public right-of-way. And there was a recent project that was approved a few years ago, which is the Walgreens, I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In this building here, it's about 60 feet at the northwest corner, and then it goes to around 85 feet at the southwest corner. And so it allows them to get some parking in the middle, and but still it keeps the building up to the front to help frame that public right-of-way and make it a more attractive environment as you go down Portland Road. So since we're getting rid of all those standards, since the property will remain within the overlay zone in general, there are some standards that are going to be retained that will help improve the appearance and retain those good pedestrian enhancements that we want to see and to create that nice environment. And those include pedestrian access standards. The zone currently requires that connections be provided from building entries to the street, and that connections be provided between buildings. And that will ensure, and that just ensures that people can get around on the site. If they're riding the bus, they can easily get to the front door, that type of thing. There's also a list of project enhancements that are required in the overlay zone. And what a project enhancement is, it's kind of a feature, a site upgrade in a way that an applicant gets to choose 4 out of a list of 12. And to help make the project better, and examples are if you do a monument sign, that would be satisfying one project enhancement. You could do a pedestrian path that's delineated by landscaping or clearly called out from the rest of the parking lot. Pedestrian scale lighting is another project enhancement that could be incorporated. There's other ones like developing an existing parking lot, using wrought iron fencing adjacent Portland Road. So there's 12 things to choose from, and you have to do 4. And that wasn't identified as a potential barrier, so that still is retained. And then we also keep the requirements for screening trash areas, open sales areas, and outdoor storage areas. And then we have a series of design standards that will remain in effect, dealing with building entries that they face the public right-of-way, and they include storefront windows to provide that interesting, engaging, and pedestrian environment. So you're not just looking at a blank wall, which is not very attractive to the public. Inclusion of canopies and awnings for weather protection, and then also parking lot landscaping. Those standards will remain in place to create a more attractive development. And so in conclusion, the amendments reflect market conditions and local interest in the development of the property, and the proposed amendment eliminates somewhat surgically those standards that have been identified as a barrier and retains those that will enhance the environment and the appearance of development along Portland Road. And then staff would recommend that the amendments be forwarded to second reading for enactment.
All right, thank you very much. And I believe that we have 2 people who are signed up for this public hearing, and I want to ask a question of council with regard to timing. The amount of time that they have.
The applicant or applicant's representative will get 15 minutes.
Okay, and then
Subsequent speakers will get 3 minutes.
neighborhood association gets 5.
Neighborhood association.
Okay. All right. We have 2 people who've signed up to speak. Is the applicant or applicant representative here?
Madam Mayor, if I may, just a matter of
sorry.
correction. The city actually initiated this action, so we don't have an applicant, but we do have a representative of the owner who's here to speak tonight.
Oh, all right, fine, thank you. And do the same time limits apply then as well? Oh, 3 minutes. Instead of 15 minutes, 3 minutes? Is that correct? Okay.
I think he can do it.
Come on,
I
Jeff,
think
you can do it.
Mr. Cross can do it.
Now I have to think. This is.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Peterson, members of the council. I'm Jeff Tross, land use consultant, 1720 Liberty Street Southeast, Salem 97302. I am here tonight on behalf of the Larry and Jeanette Epping Family Foundation, who are the owners of the property that will be affected by the proposed code amendment. We wish to thank you first for bringing this issue to hearing as quickly as you have. And we also support the staff report. You're probably wondering what's left to say after that presentation, and it's hard to think of what's left to say because that was a very thorough presentation that addressed the issues that bring this to your attention. But there is one thing that is left to say, which is I don't think this project will require a UGA permit. We'll get that out of the way right away.
Good.
But I'm not sure because there isn't a proposal yet. This code amendment will remove a few of the most difficult obstacles to attracting new development to this site. The property is located in an area that is lacking in neighborhood commercial services. The code amendment will make the property more attractive to current market conditions as they may affect development in this area and really in other places in our community as well. So the reasons for the request for this code amendment is to make the conditions that affect development of the property more consistent with the marketplace for new development as it exists today. As you heard The overlay zone requirements, regulations have been in effect since 2001. That's over 10 years. In 2001, we were in a period of very intensive commercial development and redevelopment, and yet nothing happened on this property. That should be a very telling signal about the effect that the overlay zone has had on this particular property. We believe the code amendment before you this evening is essential to attracting new development to this location. It will certainly provide assistance in that regard. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. Tross? No questions. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your consideration.
And we appreciate your patience this evening, waiting through all the other hearings. Good.
Didn't even expect it would be this soon. You caught me a little off guard.
We want to start being known for our speed here. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Dickey, would you like to make a motion regarding this, or do we have a motion on the floor?
We still are in
I'm
public
sorry.
hearing.
We have another person. Alden Mueller is here with us this evening. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Welcome.
It's Alden Muller. I live at 4305 Claxter Court, and I'm here representing the Northgate Neighborhood Association. I'm the land use chair, and the association is very much in favor of you guys granting this so we can do something with that property. We only have one grocery store on the north end of town. We'd love to see it. The consensus of the association was that another grocery store come in. But I mean, we're not locked into that. As a land use chair, I'd love to see the land in my neighborhood be used and bring in more business and more money and more jobs, whatever. And that's all I got.
That's wonderful. We appreciate you coming down and sharing that information with us. And I want to say how much we appreciate your service on the Neighborhood Association Board as well, and the work that you've been doing. It makes a tremendous difference for us as counselors to have people like yourself serving in neighborhoods.
I wasn't sure if I could speak because I've just been appointed to the overlay board. So I didn't know if there was a conflict of interest or whatever.
I don't know the answer to that, but we know that you're carrying your neighborhood
it's done now,
associations
so.
very well. The cat's out of the bag, right? Well, thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Mueller? No? All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming. All right. Now we'll close the public hearing.
Didn't you have one more speaker?
Oh, do we have another speaker? I don't have another signed up.
Didn't
Okay.
sign up.
Were there questions for staff? No questions for staff. All right. Now, Councillor Dickey, would you like to make a motion?
Thanks, Mayor. I will move staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Dickey and seconded by Councillor Tessler to move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? Councillor Dickey.
I'll just be really brief because we have discussed this here a couple times before. I'm just happy to move this forward. This property has sat for many, many years empty, and as I have mentioned before on other occasions, we are desperately trying to get the second phase of Portland Road finished, and this is just right at the gateway of that. And so I would hope that a great development on this property would not only just enhance what is there right now, but help spur on that, finishing that phase 2 of Portland Road, and hopefully encourage other property owners that are nearby to have some redevelopment, and look forward to seeing that whole corridor begin to change. And hopefully this can be one of the catalysts that will do that.
Thank you very much. Other comments by councilors? All right, we're ready for the vote. It's been moved by Councillor Dickey and seconded by Councillor Tessler to accept the staff recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. We have several ordinances for first reading. Would the city recorder please introduce the ordinances?
Ordinance Bill Number 1-12 relating to City of Salem ward boundaries upon annexation, amending SRC 11.232, 233, 234, 235, 237, and 239.
All right, Councillor Bennett.
Madam Mayor, I move staff recommendation.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanke to move staff recommendation. Is there discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. City Recorder, would you please introduce the next ordinance bill?
Ordinance Bill Number 2-12 relating to urban growth management, amending SRC 66.400 and 66.550.
All right. Councillor Bennett?
Madam Mayor, I move the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanke to move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of moving the staff recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We have no items for second reading. We have no public comment, I believe. There's no one signed up for public comment. Under new business this evening, I have a mayor's item which you saw in your council packet to sign, for the mayor to sign a Mid-Willamette Valley Mayor's Coalition letter to Congressman Kurt Schrader, urging him to reconsider his support and sponsorship of H.R. 1161. If there are questions, I would entertain those. You found that in your packet, and I would just simply say that the mayors of the Mid-Willamette Valley Mayors Coalition discussed at length and have agreed to urge Congressman Schrader to reconsider his support on this legislation that has to do with restricting the way that wine can be sold from Oregon to other areas all across the nation. You find that in your binder. So I would entertain a motion for this acceptance of this. Is that right? Yes, all right. Councillor Bennett?
Madam Mayor, I so move.
All right.
I so second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett, seconded by Councillor Nanke, to authorize the signing of this letter. All those in favor, is there any discussion? All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. I see no councilors' items, and we are, oh, excuse me, Councillor Nanke.
I'd just like to recognize that we have a member of the Scouts in the audience attending today,
yes.
who sat through the entire meeting. Thank you very much, and we hope you've learned a lot.
We hope you have. And would you like to tell us what school and what scout group you're with and your name?
Yeah, hi, I'm Troop 1. I go to
Listen,
What year
school-
are you? What grade?
He's 12.
Seventh grade. Did you say
Right,
seventh
seventh
grade?
grade.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being here this evening. We appreciate is this your mother with you? Thank you, Mom, because I know that moms and dads and family members really help make the scouting and other youth activities possible. Thank you for that, and thank you, young man, for being here, and we hope to see you again. All right. No further business. We are adjourned. And we have no executive committee this evening.
I was wondering if we were gonna have, like-